the instance we have an excess of expansion, yang, or an excess of softening, yin, we are no longer in harmony around this state of potential.
Hi, I'm Grant Kleiman from Darsana Martial Arts. Welcome to the channel. If you enjoy this content, please like and subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you'd like to support us or join our online academy, there are links in the description.
This is Dao De Ching, chapter 14. I'm going to be reading from the John C.H. Wu translation. It reads, "Look at it, but you cannot see it. Its name is formless. Listen to it, but you cannot hear it. Its name is soundless. Grasp it, but you cannot get it. Its name is incorporeal. These three attributes are unfathomable. Therefore, they fuse into one. Its upper side is not bright, its underside not dim. Continually, the unnameable moves on until it returns beyond the realm of things. We call it the formless form, the imageless image. We call it the indefinable and unimaginable. Confront it, and you do not see its face. Follow it, and you do not see its back. Yet, equipped with this timeless Tao, you can harness present realities. To know the origins is initiation into the Tao." I think this chapter is pretty straightforward in that it's describing the Tao in essence as the unknown and the unknowable. And this is not the first time that we've heard this in this book. Many times the Tao has been described in this way. But at the end it says, equipped with this timeless Tao, you can harness present realities. To know the origins is initiation into the Tao. That last little piece seems to be calling us to focus on this unknowable, unimaginable Tao. It's claiming that if we do that, we will be able to handle whatever's going on in the present. Let's see if we can understand this to some degree through the lens of our practice. We have talked about Wuji as being defined by this concept of limitless and unmanifest potential. That which has yet to happen or become, and it is all that has yet to happen and become, including those things which we have not and cannot even imagine. This, in my opinion, implies that if we cling to current state of circumstances in one moment, we will be out of step with the next moment. And we talked about this a little bit earlier when we were discussing the difference between just balance, like being able to stand on one leg and not fall down, and internal alignment, in which we can also stand on one leg and not fall down. But in the first example, if someone were to push on you while standing on one leg, you are very likely to be pushed over and fall down because you are bracing that position so that the force of gravity and the force of ground can be held in balance through your structure. However, if some other force is introduced, you are not going to be capable of adapting your balance to that. In other words, you won't be capable of changing in a way that maintains balance. However, if you are internally aligned and open, then your body will adjust in order to maintain balance, because in that way we are always returning to Wuji. We talked about balance as being a state in which nothing is changing, right? You have two forces, they're equal, they're opposite, they cancel each other out. No movement, no change. In other words, stillness. So balance is a point of stillness, a point of no change. However, in our practice, that point becomes the source and the place of return for all change. When we talk about alignment and we talk about Wuji in our physical practice, we're talking about not only a state of equilibrium from the top of our body to the bottom of our body, where we neutralize the forces of gravity with the force of the ground, but at every single point where one part of our body is in contact with another part of our body throughout our entire anatomy, each one of those points maintains an equilibrium and at the same time a freedom to change around that point of balance. So while there is this point of no change, around it is where all change occurs. And if you look at our Taichi symbol in the center, you see the Wuji hole, and then you see the yang little swirl around it. The yin one, in my version of it here, is just implied. You can't see it because it's against a black background. Also, the circle surrounding it is Wuji. Right? So in other words, yin and yang are drawn into a harmony, which we could say is balance in the midst of change, through the presence of this point where nothing is happening. No thing is happening, no change, nothing that can be distinguished. No sound, no form, no substance. In other words, here again we sort of equate the concept of Tao with the concept of Wuji, this unknowable, unnameable source from which everything comes. But when we don't focus on Wuji, when we get caught in the manifestations, as chapter 1 talks about, then we're stuck in a single shape, a single form of balance. We can describe precisely all of its features, and then when something external to that changes, or when we try to change, and for example, we're standing on one leg and we try to take a step, or we try to extend our leg in some way, or move our arms, or deal with some kind of external force from somebody else, we find that we can't unless we let go of that shape. And the only way to let go of that shape without completely crumbling is if there is something at the root of it, at the source of it, at the center of it, which is not disturbed, is not changed, is always at balance. So by focusing on this place of nothing, what seems like nothing, it's this infinite potential. So by focusing our attention on that, and by always seeking to have that at the heart of all that we do and all that we experience, that's the source, that's the focal point, that's where we reside our consciousness. Then whatever happens, whatever comes our way, we're ready to transform and adapt. This is what it means when it says, "Yet equipped with this timeless Tao, you can harness present realities. To know the origins is initiation into Tao." The origins. In the beginning, it was without form and void. Another way of putting it is there was a singularity, and then all of a sudden, boom, everything emerged. So whether you like Genesis or Big Bang Theory, essentially is saying the same thing. That what there is emerges from a state where seemingly there isn't anything. That is always there. The silence is always the background of all sound. The formless, the empty space, is always the background of all forms. Stillness is always the background of all motion. It emerges from that. It dies back into it, and new forms and sounds and motions emerge, constantly unfolding. Now, while they're constantly unfolding, at the heart of that, behind it all, is this potential. Without it, everything just stops, stagnates, freezes, becomes rigid. So, when we in our practice become too focused on the particular shape we're making or the particular goal we have for where we're directing force or any other aspect of what we're doing, and we lose sight of that internal equilibrium, which is another way of saying that internal state of no thing, we lose the ability to transform into whatever needs to be happening next. So all of our movements in our form practice, are just like all of the things we encounter in our manifest reality. They are manifestations that hopefully arise from and return to Wuji, silk reeling, the spiraling of energy and intention through our bodies, is the simultaneous expansion out of Wuji, in other words, simultaneous manifestation from nothing and return to nothing. And if both of those things are happening in equal portions simultaneously, we do not lose that equilibrium state. It is maintained. The instance we have an excess of expansion and expression, yang, or an excess of softening, yin, we start to lose that balance. We fall down, or we become rigid, or in some way we are no longer in harmony around this state of potential.